Mick Cronin does not want to see the Statue of Liberty anymore, and good news, he ain't going to have to.
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? Happy Wednesday. Welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, the only daily national college hoop show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shader, joining me at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks so much for making us your first listen or watch. Want to remind you, you can catch every single episode ad-free on Amazon Music. This episode's brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers, you can bet just $1, $2, $3, $4, $5, and if it wins, you're going to get $300 back in bonus bets to use all across the app. Download it today and check it out. Want to say a special shout out to the everydayers who are here with us, all the great members as well of the Locked On College Basketball Discord community. That link's in the show notes. We'd love to have you join us. Coming up today on the show, it is our 16th team preview. Earlier this week, we had the Tar Heels of North Carolina, the Cougs of Houston trying to get back to that national championship game. You can find the full playlist on YouTube. If you're watching, I'll link it up in the top corner over there. If you're listening, you can find it in the audio feed. That team is none other than the UCLA Bruins. And joining me to help break it all down is the great host of Locked On UCLA, Mr. Zachary Anderson Yoxheimer, whom we affectionately call Yox. And Yox and I will be talking biggest storylines, personnel, starter schedule, and more. Obviously, Yox right now is thick in the middle of trying to find the new football coach. How's that going, Yox?
You know, hopefully a little bit better than Bill Belichick in his situation at North Carolina. But hey, there's plenty of options out there. It's about getting the right guy and who's going to make the hire.
That's right. What a wild world. We both. So if you're not aware, I also cover folks Locked On Tar Heels in addition to college basketball nationally. We obviously are both blue blood schools trying to find our way in the football world as well. So, Yox, let me quickly remind everyone Bruins did last year, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of it all. Last season, Bruins 23-11 overall, 13-7 in Big Ten play. First year in Big Ten play, they finished tied for fourth with Wisconsin and Purdue. In the Big Ten tournament, they were the 4 seed. They won that tiebreaker and lost in the quarterfinals to the Badgers 70-86. In the NCAA tournament, the Bruins were a 7 seed, lost in the second round to the Tennessee Volunteers by a score of 67-58. Tyler Bilodeau, the leading scorer last year, and oh, by the way, he's back. Let's go. So, Yox. Here's the funniest storyline to me, and I think the biggest one, and legitimately, though, I think it's very wise. UCLA, between the non-conference slate and their 2 exhibition games, have 13 games. Literally 12 of those are in the state of California. Do you like this decision, or will it hamper the Bruins?
I don't like it, but there is a clear-cut reason why, and that's the Big Ten conference realignment. I don't like it. I think UCLA, and here's one thing, Isaac. It's not the fact that they're just not leaving the West Coast, because we see this in college football. There's problems with teams not leaving their state for like 3 months. It seems like in college football, or teams do something different. It's the fact they have no true road games in the regular season portion. Now they will, I believe, go to Viejas in the non-conference. Them playing San Diego State in an exhibition is the only true road atmosphere. October 17th, UCLA will play until they're in the Big Ten, which would be an early December matchup in conference games. But between those games, no true road games except an exhibition. That's the thing that bugs me a little more. I always like, hey, get to Arizona. This year they're hosting Arizona State. We'll get to that. But there's no true road games. They play Gonzaga in Seattle. You know, like it's not Spokane. It's not the Kennel. That just kind of irks me. I understand why. And obviously I remember talking with Andy about this on Locked On UCLA. It's how the net awards these teams with neutral sites versus home and homes, and it can benefit both teams for a win and or a loss. And I think that's where the lack of travel and the benefit for not even winning or losing a neutral site is weighed more than just stacking up losses for true road losses.
Part of this, Yox, is the fact that UCLA has also pulled out of the CBS Sports Classic, which they, along with Ohio State, Kentucky, and North Carolina, have been in since the inception. How does that sit with you? And Yox, have you heard anything? Because I haven't yet, on if that's just for this year or if that is like in perpetuity.
I'm not sure if I've heard anything truly about year to year, but if they're out of it this year, I don't see why they'd go back to it next year. I know Ohio State now being a conference member is a unique twist to it. So that means that's one less team in rotation that you'd play. So I wonder if that was like kind of a mutual thing, like, hey.
And now there's also, though, the NCAA just this offseason put in a new thing where you can play conference teams in MTE events.
So that's something. But you don't want to be playing Ohio State twice.
Right.
You don't want to play, especially since you only play them once, home or away in the Big Ten schedule generally. You don't really want to give them that early look and something like that. And then sometimes for UCLA, they're going to in Indianapolis. They're going to New York. They're playing in Madison Square Garden, and that's across the country. And even when they're in Vegas, it wasn't always the biggest crowds for UCLA, even though that's really close to the Bruins. I think it's limiting travel and then a little bit of kind of being stuck with Ohio State. I know it's more travel-based for UCLA and having as many home games as possible, stacking up wins, and just avoiding going to the East Coast. I know they probably won't have – they're not going to have Rutgers this year. They're not going Rutgers, Maryland.
Penn State is the furthest east that the Bruins will travel, at least in the regular season.
Yeah, so it's not like they're going back east. We won't hear 3 times to see the Statue of Liberty in like 2 weeks. Where the quote was said, it won't happen this year, but it's limiting the travel, limiting the wear and tear in the traveling by the time they get to January, because that's when it picks up immensely for UCLA in road arenas, Big Ten travel, and step up in competition.
And look, I think there is a degree to which, in addition to the wear and tear, like make fun of the California homestead all you want, but it's going to allow this team, as every team around the nation is trying to figure out who are we in this portal era? How do we get aligned and become one with chemistry? I think it's going to allow a lot of time for the Bruins to really spend time figuring out who are we. And I think that could ultimately be a big win. Yucks, I want to ask you one personnel question before we look fully at the personnel in the next segment. Obviously, one of the biggest pieces of news across the nation in the transfer portal is Donovan Dent leaving New Mexico, coming west to UCLA. And I love this. Dent, a phenomenal basketball player, All-American caliber. That's what we're looking at. Was an honorable mention for the AP last year. But it's funny because he's such a high-level scorer, and obviously Mick is known more as a defensive coach. How do you see this marriage, maybe this awkward-looking marriage? How do you see it'll work together?
I guess from the limited images from practice, from what I've heard a little bit, kind of, I've had a former UCLA player on my pod and different things, national champion, if you will. It was kind of what I've understood. They're going to be able to run a little bit more with Donovan Dent. Like, he might kind of unleash, he'll like let go of the reins. Donovan Dent can go. He's just got that talent and that motor that not even Tiger Campbell really had, who is getting a lot of comparisons with Donovan Dent and what Mick Cronin likes to do with a floor general point guard. But Dent can score in 3 ways. He can get to the rim. He can get to the line. He can shoot the 3, defend better and at more spots than Tiger Campbell did. I think we're going to see a lot more up-tempo from UCLA, and that Mick Cronin will unleash Donovan Dent. Because if he doesn't, then UCLA will underwhelm, and then we're going to start seeing some hot seat for Mick Cronin. I'm not sure he's not on the hot seat, but if you waste Donovan Dent, there will be a lot of question marks there with what's been a pretty static offense last couple of years.
Dude, and you're right, because it's like, it would be dumb, absolutely dumb of Mick Cronin a couple years ago to beg for NIL money, get it, spend a truck ton of it on Donovan Dent, and then not unleash him, right? And so I'm with you. It's like, if we're going to bring him in, let him cook, as the kids say. And I think that's what's going to happen. And you love it because when you think about what's returning, and obviously we're going to talk about that here in a second, but 3 of the 4 leading scorers from last year are coming back. That feels like that's so rare at the high major level. Oh, and by the way, you just so happen to add in the nation's 12th leading scorer from last year. It feels like it's all going to work. So what, Yox, that leads me to ask you is, in your mind, big picture, is this the best team UCLA has had since that 2021 Final Four team?
I would say the best team Mick Cronin's had was the 22-23 team that won the Pac-12 with a Dembona, Jaquez.
Yep.
And they probably would have competed for a national championship if Jalen Clark, the National Defensive Player of the Year, didn't get hurt. And Dembona doesn't get hurt. I think that was the best team. But this is the closest to that team Cronin has been able to get and what he's been trying to repeat the last 2 years building the portal, just without the injuries.
Man, okay. Yax knows this, folks, but I really, really like this UCLA team. Very excited to see what it's going to be. I think later in the show, I might upset some folks in Ann Arbor, Michigan, but we'll see what's going to happen there. Look, 3 starters are back for the Bruins this year. Who else is going to join them in that mix? Probably Donovan Dent. Who else? And who is going to be a breakout for the Mick Cronin fighting Bruins this year? We'll talk about that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Mazda, who crafts cars for those who do more than simply drive. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings that same level of intentionality to how they craft every single model. You can tell that incredible Japanese craftsmanship is there in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost every season, because with Mazda, everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like the players there at UCLA for Mick Bruins? Yeah, you know it. Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. Y'all, it's almost the weekend again, and it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order, this player delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Miami Hurricanes, Carson Beck, the UGA transfer, has been delivering in a big way. He's healthy, he's ready to go, and he helped the Canes obliterate South Florida, throwing for 340 yards, 3 tutties on 23 of 28, while rushing for 28 yards and another touchdown. When the pressure was on, Carson Beck came through. No hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching the Canes week after week, this performance was not a fluke. Carson Beck is on a streak. And just like he delivered for the Canes, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. This promo period runs all the way through November 18th. Check it out. All right, Yax, let's look at the personnel. Obviously, there are some players out, and we can look at them in a minute. But the great news is that there is a good chunk back. Skyy Clark is back. Dailey's back. Tyler Bilodeau's back. All 3 starters on last year's team. Trent Perry is back. Man, Eric Freeney, Brandon Williams, Christian Ori, a couple other guys coming off the bench there as well. Yax, what do you make of the guys coming back this year for Mick Cronin?
I think the biggest and most important piece of the returners is Eric Dailey Jr. and Tyler Bilodeau. Obviously, Bilodeau, the returning scorer. It's the shift from UCLA's small ball lineup in 24 to 25 to moving Bilodeau to the 4, where it seemed like sometimes he was a little overmatched as the 5. And then you put Dailey as the 3. The question is, do they have the quickness? They have the strength to handle that spot. But did Dailey Jr. slim down enough? Is he quick enough to handle the 3? I think he'll be a mismatch offensively at the 3 for anybody across the country. Can he handle the quickness? Can he be good enough defensively for Mick Cronin? And with Bilodeau at the 4, I'm not sure if those 2 are strong enough defensively, but if they are playing smaller guys, playing closer to what their roles are, they should be just fine. Those are the important pieces. Obviously, they're the most important returning piece. They're leading scorers. But Dailey, I think they're 16-2. They had a good number when Dailey just scored 10 points. When they just scored 10 points. Cronin wants him to be more consistent at a new spot, and he's been versatile. 3, 4, and 5. He's played that at Oklahoma State, played that at UCLA. It's important for him. A guy off the bench to look out for is Trent Perry. What can the former McDonald's All-American do? It says a lot for somebody to come with a lot of accolades, change his commitment from USC to UCLA after the USC coaching change, go to UCLA, sit the bench, and his freshman year, this is what Trent Perry did. 0 starts, 11 minutes per game, in 32 minutes. Not points, 11 minutes per game, only getting about 3 points per game. That doesn't normally spell guy who sticks with that same spot. But he stayed and has a chance to break out. He's just playing behind Donovan Dent and Skyy Clark, who is a 3-point shooter that is about to be unleashed even more so this year for UCLA, which we saw at the end of last year.
And obviously, as I said, UCLA has lost several people. Dylan Andrews off to Boise State, Sebastian Mack to Mizzou, Adai Mara off to Michigan, William Kyle to Syracuse, Dom Harris to Loyola, Lazar Stefanovic graduated, Kobe Johnson graduated, Devin Williams to FAU. So all of that's got to be replaced somewhere, somehow, Yachts. So it's not just about the guys that are returning. We've obviously already mentioned Donovan Dent coming over in the portal. Who else is coming in via the portal, and what do you think their roles will be?
Well, for UCLA, I think the most important piece is Xavier Booker from Michigan State, highly coveted for Tom Izzo's squad, went there, and it did not go well. I've talked with Matt Sheen of Locked On Spartans, trying to see what's going on there. And Booker, pretty much, anywhere you go, he underwhelmed. If he was that coveted and he's going to the portal, the fascinating thing is you go from one demanding coach to another. And sometimes you don't always go with that same personality. If you're thinking you can't handle Izzo, you think Mick Cronin's going to be any easier on you. But UCLA desperately needed the 5 because Daimara got the money and got the opportunity to transfer to Michigan, who can play better with 7-footers than UCLA has proven they can under Mick Cronin. Booker, 6'11", can stretch out the floor and hopefully bring a different dynamic. But if he's not the guy, then you got 2 other guys behind him. Steven Jamerson II, coming from San Diego, and UCLA's former coach, Steve Lavin. If Jamerson is good, he's a guy that could sneakily be impactful as the 5, more so than Booker. And if anything goes wrong behind that, Anthony Peoples Jr. out of North Carolina Central University. So I think he's more of a depth center, just if need be. He stands 6'9", so already undersized. And then you bring in Jamar Brown, a guy who I like a lot, can shoot it, is kind of a Stefanovic from the transfer portal, but a one-year guy utilizing the JUCO year and can shoot it and is a sneaky good rebounder in traffic, shooting, and defensively, despite the jump up from UMKC to the Big Ten.
And what I like about, in particular, like a Jamerson, for example, is if Booker continues to struggle and not be what everyone thought he could be, then you've got that not more than an insurance policy. You've got somebody else that can really do it, because it's like, man, that feels like the biggest question mark positionally to me, Yachts, because you feel great with Dent at the 1, with Clark, Dailey, and Bilodeau at the 2, 3, and 4. And then it's like, who's going to be our guy at the 5? If that is solidified, I think that is probably positionally, for me, the biggest X factor for UCLA. Agree or disagree?
It has to be, because the thought was, go get the premier point guard in Donovan Dent. But as soon as they got that big move, you lose a Daimara, who was the guy that was on the verge of breaking out. When he played more than 10 minutes, it was clear the difference that UCLA saw with him on the court. Now there's the debate about, is Cronin's side right? Was he, when he, kind of blasted, wasn't happy with how Mara left? Was it more money? Did he want to go to Spain? Did he want more time, less practice time? Or is it Cronin being a little too tough and unable to utilize a 7-footer for what he is, and still a game-changing talent in the paint? There's really both sides, and I think both are right and both are wrong in that case. Some rumors, some not, some just kind of like, I'm disappointed in you. And some are like, well, I'm disappointed in you. Because UCLA had to spend a lot to get Mara released from his contract out in Spain to get him out to UCLA. And with him gone, you need the front court. You need it. And UCLA's gone to a Final Four with a Cody Riley. We're good with an athletic but undersized Adem Bona, who's now in the NBA. So Cronin's done it with undersized guys at UCLA, but the Big Ten's a different beast. And if you don't get a good seed, you could truly hurt your path in the NCAA tournament.
Man, also, for what it's worth, a little trivia question, because it's one of my favorites. UMKC, where Jamar Brown comes from. Do you happen to know their team name, like UMKC what?
The Ruse.
The Ruse. It's so great. I love that they're no longer the Kangaroos. Like, they legitimately shortened it, kind of like KFC is just KFC now. There's no Kentucky Fried Chicken. Great stuff there at UMKC. All right, fun. Way to get it right, Yachts. You're the man. So then here's my question. The 3 starters all back. Are we assuming that they're still in the starting lineup, and who joins them?
Well, easily Donovan Dent slots in, Skyy Clark at the 2. Dailey Jr. is already confirmed through various events and various speaking engagements that he will be the 3. Bilodeau's the 4. I think the first crack at it, the only thing you can really shuffle is the 5, at least to head into the starting part of the year. It's Booker. I think you go with Booker. I'm not sure he's necessarily been too impressive, considering they've posted videos of him being dunked on multiple times. If you go watch UCLA practice footage, they're like, he's getting dunked on. He's catching straight. He's catching it, right? And if he's not the case, then it's Jamerson. But the first crack, and the guy you want to go with the highest ceiling, is Booker. So you go Donovan Dent, you go Skyy Clark, then you got Dailey, Bilodeau, and Booker. Those are the 5, and I think it's a very generic, easy starting 5. It's what happens with Booker throughout the season, or if Skyy Clark loses out to Trent Perry later in the year. I don't think that's the case, but they have a good backup at almost every spot.
And that's the question. Is Perry, I'm assuming, first guy off the bench? Who else joins, you think, critical? Like if we zoom out to like spots 7, 8 in the depth rotation, who else joins Trent Perry being considerably helpful off the bench?
Jamar Brown, for sure. I think he comes in, he can score. I'm not sure Dailey Jr. I'm not sure guys other than Donovan Dent are going to be pushed to 35, 36 minutes a game. And with the travel, the question is, will he have to play as much as he did in New Mexico being pushed? And Mick Cronin also liked to ride Tiger Campbell a lot for a lot of those minutes.
He did.
So if you're going to take away the minutes from Dent, or not take away, but rest him a little more, that's where Trent Perry can play along Skyy Clark. That's where Jamar Brown is going to come in for Eric Dailey Jr., or they can shift Dailey down to the 4 and bring in Brown to the 3, or if they need a defensive replacement. I think it depends on the game. UCLA has been pretty poor at keeping leads, so sometimes their best offensive 5 has not been their best defensive 5. Cronin said so multiple times last year. So it depends what he's looking at. Matchup based, do they go with the small ball lineup, or do they go with the, as big as possible, twin posts, big guards? So it's Brown, you go with then Trent Perry, and then it's unique to see which one of these guys develop. Jamerson is for sure the backup big and could slot in as a sneaky starting 5. Does Brandon Williams, who had some minutes as a freshman, redshirted last year? You don't see that often. Not hurt, was healthy. He just redshirted because Cronin said, you're not good enough to play on this roster. You won't have any time. That's not exactly what he said, but he highly encouraged him to be like, hey, let's redshirt and kind of don't burn your year. And that's kind of a good thing for a coach to do. And he stayed. So that speaks a lot to him. So can Brandon Williams make something? Christian Ory coming in. Eric Freeney is a guy that's a redshirt freshman. But he gets some freshman guard. And they did get a late guy, Markel Alston. I don't think Alston will be
the lone freshman on the roster, right? He's the only freshman.
And as late as pretty much you can get to bring in and sign a guy from New York. UCLA didn't get any of that big-time West Coast talent. They went after a guy in New York from the same spot as Brandon Williams and was high school teammates with him. So it kind of is digging through the weeds between will Williams be impactful and which of the other guards between Freeney, between maybe Ory, who's going to impact maybe Alston in a small case, or are they just going to get redshirt or no minutes and be in the portal next year?
Who's your breakout candidate for this team? Who does everybody need to know that they don't right now?
I think they need to know that Trent Perry is a guy that has potential to break out. If he does, this takes that team to the next level, because if you're riding these starting 5 to 35 minutes, that's not going to work with the travel as a West Coast team. It might work in the November months to December when it's mid-major central, you're playing Arizona and at Los Angeles, you're playing Gonzaga and Seattle. It'll work then. But when they couldn't get the job done on the road in these Big Ten arenas, you're going to need a Trent Perry to not be nervous when you step up to the free throw line to get a bucket, because they did lose a lot from their backcourt, but a little bit addition by subtraction with Mac gone, with Dylan Andrews gone, and William Kyle's an important piece to lose. But Trent Perry's the guy, and Steven Jamerson, watch out. If he's in a starting lineup, that's either big bad news for Booker or Jamerson's playing well and has been underrated for a long time.
Well, we already know, as we've talked about a lot today, that the Bruins are not going to be leaving California very much, if at all, in non-con play. But I want to know how it's all going to come together. How's the season going to go when the season is all said and done? Will UCLA be the last team standing? We're going to get to all of that and more to wrap the show coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Monarch Money. Look, most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, whether it's properties, investments, anything. And when you don't have that full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table, and nobody wants to do that. And that's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop, phone, whatever device it is. And Monarch does all the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel like you're in control of your money without ever having to touch a spreadsheet. Something that is important to me is that my wife and we want to make sure that our finances are up to date, that we know what's going on, and that we've got it in good shape. Monarch makes that so simple for us to be able to review all those finances together. We can both see our budgets, our goals, our spending activity right there in one place. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. Again, that's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. Check it out today. We will turn our attention now to UCLA's schedule. We've already mentioned some of the non-con stuff, but a fun exhibition matchup at San Diego State on Friday, October 17th, which is literally a month from today. Holy smokes, I can't believe it. I love it. The other games of note, Friday, November 14th, that's the second Friday of the season against Arizona at the Intuit Dome. That's the home of the Clippers. And then Tuesday, November 25th against Cal up in San Fran at the Chase Center where Steph Curry and his buddies play. Then Saturday, December 13th against Gonzaga at Climate Pledge Arena in Seattle. They will be playing. That's up where the Storm and the Kraken play. Good stuff there. And then the other main non-con game of note is Wednesday, December 17th against Arizona State. That one's at home in Poly, right, Yax?
Yes, that is the true home game. That is the marquee matchup at Pauley Pavilion in non-conference. Obviously, there are some Big Ten teams coming. We don't know when, but we know generally who. The question is, will they show up for Arizona State? Do it. I'm not happy that's the only marquee matchup at home. I'm mad that college basketball has gone the way to neutral sites. UCLA playing in the Intuit Dome, Arizona. Come on, bring the Wildcats to Pauley Pavilion. Come on, let's do it. Why not? The last time they came there, it was the Pac-12. Arizona clinched it. Richard Jefferson was talking trash. It was annoying. Let's shut them up and say, get the bleep out of here. Come on, let's get after it. Let's have a real home and home. But yes, Arizona State's the marquee home matchup.
Man, I'm all about that home and home noise. Give it to me. I love that. So, Yax, then moving to Big Ten play. Obviously, we don't have the full schedule yet, but we do know the opponents. There are 20 games in Big Ten play, home and away, 3 opponents always. And as it looks like, because this is the second year in a row, that what the Big Ten is going to do is for all 4 West Coast teams make their home and away the other 3. So Oregon, USC, and Washington will be those 3 teams. Home only this year, Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, Nebraska, Northwestern, Purdue, and Rutgers. Away only, Iowa, Michigan, Michigan State, Minnesota, Ohio State, Penn State, and Wisconsin. So obviously don't have to go to the 2 easternmost schools in Rutgers and Maryland, but do have to go to some of the others that are a bit further east, Ohio State, Penn State, and the Michigan schools. Yax, how does that conference schedule lay out for you?
I think it really depends how it goes. Cronin and UCLA came from the Pac-10, Pac-12 days where, you played Thursday, Saturday, sometimes a little Wednesday, Sunday. But in the Big Ten, you have to have 2 days in between. So you're playing games on very different days, Wednesday to a Saturday to a Tuesday to a Friday to a Monday. You're playing, and it's not really coordinated. And I've always thought that was a little strange where in some of the West Coast ways they play basketball, it's Thursday, Saturday. Sometimes you get that Sunday night. It's very regimented other than maybe a Wednesday once in a blue moon. So depending on how that shakes out, and how much traveling they have to do. UCLA went on a red hot streak last year when they played 7 straight games on the West Coast, and they won all those games. They beat the Oregons and the Washingtons. They beat USC on the road. They won the Wisconsin game at home, beat Iowa. That's when UCLA got red hot and punched their NCAA tournament ticket and clinched a top 4 bye in the Big Ten tournament. So the stretches of where they're at home and where they have to go on the road, when they have to go to Nebraska last year, come back home and then travel east, that it just made no sense. There just wasn't any sense to how the schedule was built. Obviously, there's more than just UCLA, but I think it's how it's built is almost more important than when and where. The big conference game on the road is Michigan because the Diamara, Michigan's the most important matchup. Purdue is at home this year. Braden Smith, they're going to get a lot of love, but the Michigan game is the one that decides. If you win that one, you can almost clinch a top 4 berth because not many teams are going to go into Ann Arbor and win this year, I think.
Yeah, and only at Michigan State as well. That'll be critical. Obviously, there's a big gap between the Cal and Gonzaga games in non-con. We expect, as per usual, to have a couple Big Ten games in there, somewhere between that Cal games November 25th, Gonzaga December 13th. So we'll see what happens there. Yax, as you look at it, obviously it's an unbalanced schedule, so that's a factor. Where do you think UCLA ultimately lands in the Big Ten standings heading into the Big Ten tournament?
I think they're competing for a top 4 spot, and anything less than that is an absolute disappointment. Now, it'll be dependent on the front court. I think they can certainly challenge Purdue and Michigan for winning the regular season. I think they will fall a little short for winning the regular season crown to Purdue, but I think they can absolutely compete. I think UCLA's got the backcourt. I know it depends. Can they handle a Kaufman-Wren? Can they handle the size of what, Michigan's brought in? They stole a Dymar. They brought in a guy who was lottery projected in Yaxel and brought him in, right? And so they have a lot of transfers. They have a lot of moving parts in Michigan. It's just, I think they're a good third, but they can compete for at least a second place spot, if not win it, with Purdue coming to Pauley this year.
And that's my projection, is to finish second in the Big Ten. I do like the UCLA roster better than the Michigan roster. And so I think finishing second to Purdue is my legitimate actual projection there. Now, in terms of regular season record, because of the non-con and the way it lays out, I have UCLA going 10-1. I think they win all the bye games plus Cal and Arizona State, and then dropping one of either Arizona or Gonzaga, just because, teams get tripped up and they lose somewhere. So I'm not going to predict a perfect record, but 10-1, man, you got to be pleased ultimately with that. And then I've got 15-5 in conference play, just because there's so much travel. I do think this team is going to be great, but even with 5 losses, the way it goes in these bloated conferences, that's enough for second place, finishing 25-6. Yax, am I too high or too low, or Goldilocks in it at just right with that?
I think it's kind of perfect. If UCLA has 2 losses in the non-conference, that is not good, because they don't have many marquee matchups. They have Arizona, they have Gonzaga, and we're not sure if Gonzaga is that highly thought of this year prior to the season, although they could be a good team later. Then you've got Arizona. They've got a lot of moving pieces and moving parts. They have them earlier in the year. That's a chance to get them. Last year, the Bruins lost to, New Mexico early. That was before New Mexico was really highly thought of and making it to the NCAA tournament with a win. If the Bruins lose those 2 non-conference games, it's disaster, because they have very minimal chances to really earn respect outside of a couple of Big Ten games. Yeah. So I think that's right around the case, and I think this is a team that can be built for the NCAA tournament almost more so than Big Ten conference play.
Let me give you my floor and ceiling, and you tell me if I didn't go down far enough or I didn't go high enough. On the floor, I'm going to say 5th in the Big Ten. I don't legitimately don't see a world in which UCLA, because of what they bring back and who they bring in, I just don't see them dropping further than that. But in that world, Dent doesn't gel as well as we hope with who was already there. Maybe a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament and lose in the second round of things. From a ceiling, ceiling is the roof, basically, right? Dent comes in, solidifies an already strong core. The team soars. Figure out that fight, Xavier Booker finally becomes who he should. Lots of time because of the non-con slate to figure out who are we. A wildly successful Big Ten run, challenging Purdue at the top of things, and a Final Four run. I think that is a legitimate ceiling for this team. Yax, where am my floor and ceiling? Are they accurate, or am I too low, too high? What do you think?
Last year, I think we were both pretty high on this team, but that was because they were so bad the year before that last year's incoming transfer class meant they were getting back to the tournament. I thought they were a 3rd weekend team last year. Maybe I was a year ahead of it, because now they got the game changer at point guard. Losing the talent in the front court when they needed it the most this year is pretty devastating. Yeah. But Final Four is absolutely well within this reach. You have a guy as good as, Tiger Campbell-esque, who led that team to a Final Four. You bring in a Donovan Dent, who can do a lot more. Huge. You got scores. You got guys who can score in multiple ways, multiple layers. They got 4 to 5 proven scores. It's going to come down to the front court. And I still think they could make it in spite of a dominant front court, which is kind of what they did against the Michigans in that Final Four run, or the Michigan States, and kind of worked their way in, even though they got eaten alive a little bit by Gonzaga in the Final Four. For the floor, though, I think it could actually be a little lower. Okay. If things go wrong, if you lose 1 to 2 games, you get stuck in that 3-team tiebreaker and lose, and be tied for 6th, and then end up as the 8th seed, right? If you lose to the wrong teams, if UCLA falls to Purdue at home, last year they did, beat Michigan State at home. That was a huge win. Wisconsin was a huge win at home. And that was just to get tied for the Big Ten top 4 spot. And if they lose that, they're the 6th seed. So if that happens again this year, they take one more extra L. There's some very stacked teams atop this conference. Yep. They could fall in the 7 seed, but still be a game off the pace. So not like dreadfully bad, but one that could really tank their Big Ten conference seeding and their NCAA tournament seeding, which we saw last year wasn't really respected. They were underseeded last year.
I agree.
I think they were very underseeded. So if they do that same thing, they'll give UCLA no respect. They didn't go anywhere in the non-conference. If they don't perform well, they will get a 7 or an 8 seed. But I think this team is deserving of a 3 or a 4 seed if they can do well. It's just which West Coast team will rise as the highest ranked West Coast team. Can they challenge for a 2 seed? I think UCLA can.
And something else I love that I guess we haven't said yet is one of the great things about the superstar coming in Dent is it bumps everybody else down one spot on the scouting report, right? So now Tyler Bilodeau is number 2 instead of number 1. Dailey goes down 1, Skyy Clark goes down 1, and I just think that makes this team ultimately better because as long as they're willing to accept those things, and that's always the key, is does that chemistry work? Yox, ultimately, when it's all said and done, give me your NCAA tournament projection for this team, seed and round, not aspirationally, like realistically.
I think they're a 3 and a 4 like hybrid, right? Last year we saw the West Coast, the Arizonas, and the Oregon. They were the 4-5. They met in the second round to get to the Sweet 16. I think UCLA is in between a 3 and a 4. They can really realistically be a good 3 seed, or they can kind of be stuck as a 4 seed and not respected. They are a team that should get to a second round challenge for the Elite 8, like that Sweet 16 game. It shouldn't be a ceiling. It should be, all right, right matchup right here. They're challenging for an Elite 8. And then things have to break right for the Final Four. They can certainly get to a Final Four, but they will be challenging for an Elite 8 as a very competitive team.
I love it. I have 3 seed, but making an Elite 8 because we all know how important these guards are in March, right? And so I just think Donovan Dent takes over as one of the premier players in the nation, and the team just rides Donovan Dent and everything else they have and gets to that Elite 8. And as you said, if it breaks, man, you get to the Final Four, you win Saturday, you win Monday, and who knows? Yeah, man, I think a very realistic possibility for this team is a 3 seed in an Elite 8 run. Great stuff, Yox. I love to chat the Bruins and what's going to happen this year. Thanks so much for joining me. Guys, if you have not yet subscribed to Locked On UCLA and all of Yox's great content, make sure you do so now on video and audio. Do the same for our show here, Locked On College Basketball. We'd love to have you do that as well. If you've not joined the Locked On College Basketball Discord community, that link's in the show notes. Free to join, a great place to chat college basketball with a bunch of other people who love it. As always, we are so grateful that you've been here with us today. I want to say apologies to the Lawyer family. Let's go Wild Popes. Cheers to the Mick Bruins. And until tomorrow, peace.